In this video, I'm going to discuss a topic of which has some very strong opinions on both sides. This of course being the Ka-50 Black Shark and the fact that it is a premium vehicle. This is in my opinion the biggest misstep taken by Gaijin during the recent development of War Thunder, and I fail to understand how they came to believe that this was a logical and sound decision to any degree. This helicopter has completely destroyed helicopter battles, a game mode that was already in tatters before its addition, and is a thorn in the side of anyone facing it in ground battles, as in both cases there is very little you can do to counter it. Now firstly, Gaijin seems to think that by putting it at a 10.0 VR, it is not a top tier premium.
We're just making pre-top tier premiums, and the idea is for new players that want to try new gameplay style, because top tier, they're not just top, they're different in the gameplay style, the jets, modern tanks and so on. So we are making pre-top tier premiums for players to make them easier to start with what they want.
And to a certain point of view, they might be correct. But when you start comparing it to other 10.0 and even top tier 10.3 helicopters, you start to notice that something is really off. When comparing the weapons, you will firstly notice the range. The Ka-50 has a significant range advantage over every other helicopter in the game, aside from the H-34, which has one 11km range missile, whereas the Ka-50 has 12 10km range missiles that are in most cases significantly better. Not only do these travel at over the speed of sound, not only do these have 1000mm of pen, and not only do these have the ability to lock onto enemy targets, but they also include a 4-meter proximity fuse radius. So if you see a Ka-50 missile coming at you, and you're out and exposed in the open in your helicopter or your slow-flying aircraft, just bear in mind that they don't even need to hit you to gain a kill, and in most cases you will also be too far away to do anything about it, so you're screwed in most situations. And this is the case even if you're flying a top-of-the-line helicopter that you've spent many hours grinding and upgrading. So I do put the question out there, does that seem fair? And at this point, we've not even mentioned ground vehicles. In ground vehicles, it's even worse in most cases. There's little you can do to combat the Ka-50, and even most top-tier SPAA vehicles cannot hit the Ka-50 when it's at its maximum 10km ATGM range. And even aside from that, it also has a radar warning receiver system that will tell it when an SPAA is active, and if that Ka-50 player even has a shred of intelligence, they will easily be able to avoid any enemy SPAA vehicles. And if you're flying along in your helicopter hoping to engage a Ka-50, don't even bother firing an air-to-air missile. It has a missile approach warning system which will automatically deploy flares. This means that the Ka-50 player does not even need to have any form of reaction time to fire flares, because the helicopter will do it for them. In fact, the only weakness of the Ka-50 is the fact that it lacks a thermal sight, which, in most games doesn't necessarily stop them, as you can crank up your gamma setting, change a few post-FX settings to make night games relatively bearable. Now some people might claim that the Ka-50 was the only option for a Russian Tier 6 premium, or at least the only reasonable option. And initially, this is what I also thought. I gave Gaijin the benefit of the doubt. I presumed they had chosen the best option for this vehicle, and in hindsight, that was a major lapse in my judgment. After more research, I have discovered that there are actually many options for a functional Tier 6 premium for the Russians that would have been usable, but much less powerful than the Ka-50, and ideally could replace the Ka-50 or succeed it if Gaijin ever decides that they want to backstep on this flawed decision. So a few examples. First off, let's go with an easy route. Take a helicopter we already have, make a few model changes, and then add that as a premium. First off, the Mi-24VM. This is the Mi-24V that we have in the game, just with a few modifications for night operations, and then the ability to use the Igla air-to-air missiles and the Attacker anti-tank guided missiles. Essentially speaking, it's an Mi-35 with less payload. Another option, which requires slightly more changes to an already existing model, is the Mi-24 VP Delta H prototype. This is an Mi-24V with two changes. First off, the turret revolver gun is replaced by a twin 23mm autocannon, just like on the Mi-35. And the second change is that the tail rotor is replaced by a prototype of the Mi-28 tail rotor. Aside from that, as far as I can find, the rest of the helicopter remains as a standard Mi-24V would be. Final option, which I think could work nicely, is the Ka-29. While not quite as fast as most other Tier 6 premiums, this is a more unique design that can hold its own. Now, it does lack air-to-air missiles, but on the other hand it does have flares, and it has a radar warning receiver, so enemy helicopters with AAMs shouldn't be too much of an issue, and SPAA vehicles can still be avoided. The Ka-29 can also carry a large range of weapons, including Sturm and Attacker ATGMs, and a nose-mounted revolver cannon. And when comparing this to other Tier 6 helicopters such as the Mangusta, the AH-1F, and the Bo 105, I do believe this would work full well as a Tier 6 vehicle. And a good feature of this is that the range of the Attacker ATGMs will allow the Ka-29 to kill enemy helicopters in Heli EC with minimal problem or risk, but also allow it to kill enemy ground vehicles from a reasonable but yet not unreachable range. Now, I believe all of these would work as a successor or replacement for the Ka-50, and would be nowhere near as overpowered, but yet would still provide a capable platform for both air-to-ground in ground RB, or heli versus heli in helicopter EC. Please drop a comment, let me know what you would think of the idea of removing or replacing the Ka-50, and if so, what do you think should replace it? Anyways, thank you very much for watching. If you watched all the way through this video, that is very much appreciated. Thanks again, and I will see you in the next one.